Welcome to Buddy Russell's Lanes in Garden City, Long Island for the 1978 Long Island Open. Let's go to the opening match between John Petraglia and Steve Westberg on ESPN Classic.
Once again in the first match, our fifth-ranked bowler, Johnny Petraglia, meets the number 4 bowler in the tournament, Steve Westberg. And you must remember, in our format, each competitor continues to advance as long as he keeps winning. So here we go, Dick Weber. Steve Westberg is going to shoot first, and you mentioned his particular style. And I bet there are a lot of viewers that set themselves up on the approaches the same way he does.
Well, there's a few, Chris, but you have to get results, and that's what Steve does. And he's learned this through junior programs and things like that, but he's really improved himself.
So here in our all-left-hander match, our first, Westberg opens with a big strike. And here's one of the most exciting bowlers in the 17 years that we've done these telecasts, Dick Weber, Johnny Petraglia, who now is 30 years old. It's hard to believe. He's won 12 PBA titles.
Well, as you notice, he's got the hometown crowd in front of him, but he's a terrific bowler. As we watch John here approaching the foul line, you'll watch that he'll bend that shoulder greatly and open those shoulders up and then come with a close to get his good, solid follow through. And that's the way to do it. That's the reason he gets the strikes.
I think that, Dick, you touched briefly at the top of the show that this is the 4th time that John had appeared on the Pro Bowlers Tour in a tournament in New York. His best finish was in 72 and 74, the U.S. Open at Madison Square Garden, when he finished 3rd.
What a break, Chris. Knocking the 6-8 out of there, which is a trip 6 for a left-hander, and then knocking the 8-pin out.
Let's get a replay of Petraglia's trajectory with the stroke.
Watch the ball tail in at the very last, charging hard and just about causing the 6-8 split. But yet, the little pin knocks the 6-pin over into the 8-pin carrying.
Here's the father of one from Cottage Grove, Oregon, 28-year-old Steve Westberg. He has 2 PBA titles, as his concentration was just broken. You see his week's average of 227. 2 titles coming on non-televised events. All right, thus far, we have a
through and getting the result, good result, the strike.
He's a 6-footer, weighs 180 pounds. Our tournament leader, whom you'll see later, Jeff Mattingly, is one of the biggest on the tour, 225 pounds, whereas Petraglia weighs 145. 10-pin. You're oohing and eyeing on that one, Dick.
Bad break. That's the solid hit, leaving the solid 10. But that's where the ball charges in again as we watch it going down the lane and making a last-minute charge in the pocket hard, and the 6-pin goes right in front of the 10-pin.
And now, not too much cross lane for this shot for the lefty. Left-handers are both using rubber balls. I guess there's less friction, lower friction on the left-hand side of the lane, Dick.
Well, the low lane friction calls for that rubber ball to be used. If it was a high lane friction, why then it'd be used. They'd be using a plastic ball. But on that charge, Chris, when that ball charges in there, it has so much power on the hooking power that it causes pins to fly heavily and causing splits and solid hits.
A double up for Petraglia. Perfect strike. 3rd in a row for John Petraglia in our very first game of the Professional Bowlers Tour, live from Garden City, Long Island, about 28 miles from the heart of Manhattan. Beautiful day here in the East.
You know, watching the different styles between the 2 left-handers there, Chris, Johnny Petraglia is bellying the ball. What we mean by bellying the ball is rounding the ball more away from his spot and then coming around into the pocket, where Steve Westberg goes straighter down the boards and then into the pocket. And I'll take the guy that rounds a little bit because he has a little more area to play with.
All right. So Johnny Petraglia has a 4-bagger here in Garden City, Long Island. And with a lead of 11 pins, we're going to take a break and then return.
It's
John Petraglia now, strike up in the 6th, shooting in the 7th, trailing by 11. Well, John Petraglia finished 5th. Here's the man that finished 6th as our older Ted Cohn from Windsor Locks, Connecticut. And the pros will be traveling there for the PBT coming up this week.
And Chris, watch this particular shot here. Watch how John Petraglia gets the ball over the foul line, a good foot and a half or so. According to Steve Westberg, he just rolls the ball across the foul line. Very much difference.
John looking at the overhead score sheet. He sees 148 through the 6th with a spare working.
And here it comes again as he comes with the open shoulder and getting ready to close that shoulder. That causes him to close the shoulder and loft the ball over the foul line. And it's a smooth loft now. It's not an airborne loft. It's a smooth loft.
So it's a strike in the 8th frame, 168 through 7 for Johnny Petraglia.
I just love to see those. Just love to see those rattler strikes, as you're going to see here, because the ball hits the head pin very thin on the left side, and everything goes to the right, off the sideboards and kickbacks, and getting that beautiful strike. That's my particular strike.
All right, now Westberg. He has a 4-bagger shooting in the 8th. Oh, he comes up with a 6, 7, 10. 8th frame, and you see this happen so often, Dick, as you get down near the end of a game with all the pressure here.
Yes, you know, talking to the bowlers here, the bowl this week, why, you can't let up on that particular shot. You've got to keep the good, smooth follow-through going, the good speed going, and if you don't, this is the result, because here's a 6, 7, 10, the 14-to-1 shot, and we'll see if Steve does it.
Those 14-to-1 odds are for the professionals, members of the Professional Bowlers Association, not for the average bowler.
I need about a 100-to-1 shot on that one.
No way. We've seen you make it. So it's an open frame, and it drops Steve out of the lead. He now trails by 4 pins, 184 through the 8th. Now in the 9th.
And this is very much of a pressure shot for him, Chris. He needs this particular strike to stay in the game with John.
And he did just that, making it on the left lane.
Now here's the situation, Chris. If John Petraglia gets the first strike in the 9th frame, then goes to the 10th frame and gets the first strike, then he will shut out Steve Westberg. But he has to watch his count. If he doesn't strike, he has to watch the count on the spare for the previous frame, the following frame, the 10th frame. So a lot of important shots coming up.
And the winner will meet Nelson Burton, Jr. Look at that concentration. Big double for Johnny Petraglia. Born in Brooklyn, living in Staten Island, New York.
All right. The situation. He wants this strike in the first ball in the 10th frame here. And anything above 7 pins and a spare would be a lock match for John Petraglia. And being the veteran he is, he's going to take a little time. You can't trust these kids.
Four pin on the left lane for the left-hander.
He wants his spare badly. He needs his spare badly. And as we watch John release the ball, he pulled his body up, as you see there, and went to the nose and hitting it very heavily and got out of the split. leaving the 4-pin, which he converts. Now, he's got a spare in the 10th. He wants anything 8 pins or above for the count, because that would force Steve Westberg to get the first 2 strikes in the 10th frame.
Well, an appreciative audience here, enjoying the performance. Johnny Petraglia against Steve Westberg. Now Westberg. Petraglia's 236.
Well, Steve knows his work, what's cut out for him. He has to have that first one, and then he has to get that second one, or it's lights out.
Leaving the 7-pin on the right lane. So Johnny Petraglia moves up. And for Steve Westberg, first time on the Professional Bowlers Tour telecast from Cottage Grove, Oregon, he will take $3,500 home. And Petraglia, the winner, will go against Nelson Burton Jr. Petraglia, 7 strikes, defeating Steve Westberg in our first game, 236 to 224. I'm Chris Schenkel, and along with Dick Weber now, we look at Petraglia meeting the number 3 bowler, Nelson Burton Jr. 35 years old, 3rd time in 4 weeks that he's been on our televised finals. He's really paying attention to his bowling game.
Yeah, he's creeping up in that age. I see he's the oldest bowler on the cast today.
Mere 35. Petraglia is 30, shooting first. Leaving a 7 on the left lane, Petraglia.
One of those particular hits, Chris, is just one of the hindrances of the game. There's solid 7, and there's the 6-pin, as we see John lay the ball down around the 10th board, we'll say, the 2nd arrow, and the ball breaking in nicely to the pocket and wrapping that 4-pin right around the 7-pin.
All right, it's a spare for Petraglia. And now, Nelson Burton Jr., the U.S. Open champion, winning it in Greensboro. He finished 4th in St. Louis, where he said he had the jitters.
I can't imagine that.
Oh, it didn't come up, and leaving the bucket. 2, 4, 5, 8.
The good old bucket. And as we watch the profile of Bo Burton, you'll notice that Bo has a similar flarity that John Petraglia does, opening that right shoulder up and then closing, but also lofting that ball over the foul line well.
2, 4, 5, 8. Nelson Burton.
Tricky spare.
And that showed you why. Looks simple, Dick, but it's not.
As we see the ball sliding down the lane and not hooking into the spare whatsoever, but luckily getting 3 pins there. Actually, he should have got 8, but the 1 pin carried. After it's over with, I would have instructed Bo to move to the right a little bit more and shot that more straight to the 2-5 pocket, as we call it on the bucket.
2 shots, neither of them finishing the way he'd like for him to. That's what he's done all week long in finishing 3rd in this powerful field. So now it's Petraglia. If you just joined us, he won the first game over Steve Westberg of Oregon, 236 to 224.
And I'll give you a little interesting note on John after he throws this ball for us in that particular game.
Beautiful finish on that stroke.
In that first game against Steve Westberg, Chris, John Petraglia had 7 strikes and Steve Westberg had 7 strikes. But John Petraglia had 3 nose hits, where Steve Westberg had 1, Steve Westberg paid for the nose hit and got a split out of it. And John luckily got out of his split, so I think John would agree with me that he was a little lucky to win that particular game.
All right. Now shooting in the third frame of our second game with a spare and a strike. Now in the third, Petraglia. Coming up high, leaving the 2-4.
A little rare up shot there. Something John has trouble with is rearing at the foul line.
Let's see how he ends up as we look at the 2-4.
All right. There he goes. The ball lofting over the foul line. Knee bending. And gee whiz, he's about 8-10 inches behind.
So again, the importance of shooting, picking up spares, Dick.
When you do have to end up 8, 10, 12 inches behind that foul line, Chris, you have to loft the ball some. So that's the reason John does it, because if you lay it behind the foul line, that ball's going to hook instantly to the nose.
Looking for a double, Bo Burton. Gets by with it. Give us a little sly look, like everybody needs a little luck.
Let's take a look at Bo Burton's loft here. He does loft the ball a little bit more than John Petraglia to get the skid on the ball, to delay the hook of the ball, going down the lane a little bit farther and kicking out that 4-7-10, which he's very proud of.
Now he could take the lead with a strike here. No, 3-6-10.
You know, Chris, when you're fighting in one particular game to win the match, not necessarily the title, but the match, you have a tendency to squeeze a little bit and rush the foul line a little bit. And when you do that, then you're either going to drop the ball or else rear up and pull the ball. What I mean, cross in front of your body with your follow through to the nose.
And Bo takes care of that 3-6-10, marking with a spare in our second game of the Professional Bowlers Tour. More after this. All right, we're back again at the Long Island Open. Mark Roth from Staten Island, New York, the Bowler of the Year, the leading money winner, waiting in the wings to meet the winner of the Burton Petraglia bout going on right now.
And you know something, Chris? Sissy Burton, Bo's wife, and my daughter Paula Kay are bowling in a tournament in Springfield. So let's hope one of the Burtons, or whatever.
One of the Webbers. No, leaving the 7. Bo really wanted that one because he had a strike up in the 6th.
Just can't figure out why he's slowed down. Look at that shot. That's when I used to drive him around. I was his chauffeur when he was that small.
After winning one of his 13 PBA titles. Oh, no. That's more like it.
Kept his speed up a little bit that time. Every time he throws the ball slow, he gets in trouble. The ball is wavers and doesn't finish good, doesn't get to the pocket good. John knows this, so he's definitely going to take advantage of this particular shot.
Leading by 48 pins, this man, Petraglia. Oh, zeroed in from the left side, Petraglia.
There's Ted Cohn from next week's stops in Windsor Locks, Connecticut. Pete Couture is the same place, and Doug Heim making an appearance. Dennis Lane, Cookie Pisani, and John Denton. Pete McCordick, Fred Jaske, last week's winner in Milwaukee. Randy Lightfoot, winner in Miami. Tommy Hudson, great bowler.
Oh, he's stringing them now. 6 in a row for John Petraglia.
And there's Paul Caldwell, Butch Soper, and Mike Durbin, one of the Tournament Champions winners. And Fred Connor and Carmen Salvino won $1,000 this week and went over $400,000, Chris. The 8th bowler to do so.
2, 4, and 5 left by Nelson Burton Jr. third finisher in this field, one of our 5 finalists. And that picture tells the story.
That $400,000, Chris, is all-time money winnings, by the way, not just in 1 year.
Now that ball had the speed he probably needed earlier. In fact, Nelson had me write down on his bio sheet, he must throw as hard as he can to keep the spin on the ball. There's Mark Roth. 2 fellows now living in Staten Island, New York. 2 hometown products here in the East. Now they will face each other, and then they'll face a man from Tacoma, Washington. The winner will. Oh, comes up with a high hit, and it's the 7-9. And it's not the type game that Nelson Burton Jr., U.S. Open champion, would like.
As we see the hit, Chris, the ball going really high and leaving the 7-9 split, which is a very improbable split to make. And he'll bowl just go for the 1.
So a 169, Nelson Burton Jr. 3rd time in 4 weeks he's been in the finals. He won the U.S. Open, finished 4th at Jewel Lanes in St. Louis. John Petraglia is going to be hard to beat. He bowled a 236, 7 strikes in a win over Steve Westberg's 224. And he's working on a 249 here.
Spare and a strike, why he'll have a 249 game, which is a very good game, above his week's average.
And John Petraglia had one of the 8 300s bowled here at Buddy Russell's Lanes this week. And Petraglia has a 4-bagger in this semifinal game.
Taking a little more time on the approach, extending that follow-through greatly. He's really reaching out, as we see a picture here of John Petraglia of earlier years.
It's like the evolution of hairstyles, men's hairstyles. Leading by 30, shooting in the 5th frame, 4 in a row. Five-bagger. John Petraglia, whose highest finish in the New York area over the years was 3rd. Last year, Mark Roth, at whom you're looking, finished 8th here. And that's been his best finish in the East, or at least New York. Oh, all right, there's a double he needed. Look at the string at the top. 5 in the row. And now Roth with a double up. He'll be shooting in the 6th frame on the left lane. Ten-pin.
Something different about Mark's angle compared to John Petraglia's angle is Mark is much more inside, closer to the 3rd or between the 3rd and 4th arrow, where John Petraglia is maybe between the 2nd and 1st arrow on his side. So the carrying power has to be in favor of John Petraglia.
Look at the speed on that spare shot. Wow. And now up, 5 in a row, 6th frame. John Petraglia winning the first game, 236 to 224 over Westberg, then 246 to Bo Burton's 169. Halfway.
6 in a row. You think he's thinking about the $10,000 from ABC TV?
Knowing the coolness of this young man, yes.
I know I would. And I know Mr. Petraglia viewing there would also be thinking about it.
Great face.
Yes.
like that split screen. Make it 7. We'll be back with more of the semifinal game. And after 7 in a row, let's take up Petraglia waiting. He has a 7-bagger up, and Mark Roth has a spare working, trailing by 51. Mark shooting in the 7th frame. The winner of this game will meet Jeff Mattingly.
Good break, keeping the 4-9 out of there. And Mark knows he's got his work cut out for him. He has to go all the way. He just can't afford another particular count. But as we watch the ball hit the pocket, watch the ball hook sharply, kicking out the 4 and 9 pin.
Double for Mark Roth. The $60,000 earned on the tour this year for Mark, while Petraglia this year has $15,050. Career, $349,000. For Roth in a career, he has $356,000.
Our statistician, Johnny Meyer, a veteran of the bowling game, PBA, pointed out that he thinks that Johnny Petraglia's adrenaline is flowing better and not dragging down like Marshall Holman did last week. Let's watch.
Frame number 8. Well, these are pictures that we really don't have to write captions on.
I'm nervous a little bit.
Well, perfection is always a great thing to watch.
When it's done so beautiful, too.
Mm-hmm. Great form. Now shooting in the 9th frame of our semi-final game, and look at it. It's a lot of kisses.
And each shot gets to be a little bit longer, a little more concentration, run the basics through your mind.
His dad applauds. I just saw a great thing happen. Mark Roth applauded the 9th strike. That is, he's the opponent.
He knows it's a great champion, Mark Roth is. He knows he's beat, and so he wants to see John go all the way now and collect that $10,000 from ABC.
And you know, Mark has a possible 249 in this semifinal game, which is his event, head-to-head. And our format produces this kind of action. Has for 17 years. So you have a left-hander and a right-hander, both living in Staten Island, New York.
You know, Chris, Mark's is getting up there, getting out of John's way, so John can get up there and concentrate on his 300, which is very nice, too.
All right. Boy, and he has strung 5 now here in this semifinal game. There are 50 lanes in this bowling establishment in Garden City, Long Island. Now Roth on the left lane of the pair that we're using for our telecast. He finishes with a 6-bagger, and as we said, a possible 249, and that's what he makes.
Well, you couldn't ask for any better action from two hometown boys, could you, Chris?
No, and Mark is 26 years old, and John Petraglia is 30 years old with 10 titles. Mark has 11 titles, 3 of which he won this year. Number 10. The crowd sensing as we replay his 10th strike in a row. And his reaction. John had a 300 in a qualifying round. As we mentioned earlier, there were 8 here this week. A total now, 13th stop on a tour of 16 cities. There have been 53.
53.
George Pappas had 2 here, but not when the pressure and the lights, an Open Championship at stake, the 11th ball.
He wasn't sure about that, Chris, and threw that ball, and he thought it was going to be high, but yet the ball held because he had enough speed on it to carry the strike.
Well, on the next shot, it's this simple. As you look at those 11 in a row, if he can make it, $10,000 from the American Broadcasting Company and a Ford Futura.
I can feel it up here. I'm jittery.
Crossing over, leading to 2-4. Standing ovation for John Petraglia, and 2 pins away from 10,000 Ford Futura. A 298. All right, number 16, Frank Gifford. Look at that, 298, Johnny Petraglia. That's right, he had 11 strikes in the row, 1 ball worth $10,000 and a Ford Futura. And let's take a look at the 12th stroke by Johnny Petraglia and his win over Roth.
Watch as he releases the ball, Chris. He rears up a little bit, pulling the ball a little bit inside his target, causing the ball to go high and leaving that 2-4 pin. Bad break for John.
So again, the final score, 298 to 249. There's the Long Island Open trophy. And to go with it will be $8,000 to the winner of this match. Now the tournament leader, 26-year-old Jeff Mattingly. Large, 225 pounds. Watch him. Looking for his first championship, Mattingly. And he has yet to win a match on national television in 4 games. And Petraglia now, after a 298, let's see if he can start all over.
John's averaging 260 for his first 3 games, where on this particular pair he averaged 230. So he's well above average.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
So that was the one he wanted. Let's see. 13 first shots, of course, and well, he's made 12 of them.
It's too bad we can't take that strike and transplant it where the 8-pin count was.
You know, during Thursday night's first session of match play, John dropped from 2nd to 15th, but not because he bowled badly. Get this, his 8 opponents bowled a composite series of 2,038, an average of 254, a PBA record.
You just can't beat that. Oh!
All right, got a good start with 2. Final match, 8,000 to the winner, 5,000 to the loser.
There you go, Chris. The ball's going down pretty far, but then all of a sudden it makes a right turn, going pretty high into the pocket, and the 6 and 8 pin going out last.
Almost looked like one of Andy Verapapa's trick shots. Andy, incidentally, is here. Just, there you see him, left of the screen. 87 years old this week. Leaving the 7 pin, Jeff Mattingly of Tacoma. There's a good look at Andy.
Chris, let's take a look at Jeff Mattingly going to foul line here. That ball cupped in his arm, but no backswing. Great backswing. Comes through the ball, lays the ball over the foul line, or lofts the ball over the foul line real well. Getting good extension with that follow through, but oops. Oh. That's a bad break. He stuck at the foul line a little bit, causing him to release the ball early with no lift, and the ball just sliding all the way down, missing the 7 pin. And next week, we're at the Greater Hartford Open, Windsor Locks, Connecticut, and Baltimore, Maryland. How about that?
And then to wind up with the $150,000 Firestone Tournament of Champions, which Mattingly would like to be in. He's not eligible. If he wins today, he will be. Whereas Petraglia, his opponent, has already won that great event.
Here, his ball is just cutting sharply into the nose and fortunately breaking up a split, leaving the 3-6 spare. And you'll have to move extreme left and shoot pretty straight at this because you don't want to hook the ball at this particular spare.
Voice of Dick Weber.
You know, John's doing a very good thing there because he's going up. Jeff Mattingly just stuck there at the foul line. Maybe a little perspiration off of one of the bowlers or something like that. But he went up to check that foul line to make sure that he won't stick. So, good advice to all of our viewers.
John Petraglia, and enjoying it is Mr. Charles Howard Sr. and Bruce Howard. Of course, I mention them because we have Chuck Howard, whom we're very proud, our Vice President of Production at ABC Sports, and a Garden City native. In fact, so many of our ABC Sports people grew up in Garden City.
Oh, yes?
Sure, John Martin. Ren Arledge lived in this area one time. Well, avoiding the split, Petraglia with 11 in a row in the semifinal game leads to 6-10. He started out.
And he needed to keep his thrust up a little bit more as we see the ball hitting the head pin very full, leaving the 4-10 and the 6-pin, and all of a sudden a pin comes out of the pit and knocks the 4-pin over.
All right, Petraglia, who had a 298 in the previous game against Roth's 249, marks with a spare after 3 in a row. We're in Garden City, Long Island. This is the final game. Jeff Mattingly, the tournament leader, going against John Petraglia, who has won 3 games in a row. Now with a spare up shooting in the 4th, Mattingly.
And really, Jeff knows he has his work cut out for him, Chris. He's got to really go to work now because John's not letting down at all.
It's a 4-pin for Mattingly, who is looking for his first win on television.
Right, and just observing, Chris, I would move Jeff in maybe another board or 2 inside his mark so you get a little more slide on the ball and then delay that hooking action at the end. He's the first one to admit after making that 4-pin that he's one of the poorest spare shooters on the tour. He strings strikes out something else, but his spare shooting is something else to be desired. He needs to practice on these spares.
Debbie Mattingly, Jeff's wife, watching the stroke.
And you can see he got a strike with that little smile from Debbie.
Met Debbie at a bowling center. 31 pins separating Petraglia, who's up and ready. We're at Garden City, Long Island. Dick, Long Island is a beautiful place on this spring-like day. If you go out to the Hamptons and Montauk and Glen Cove, Port Jefferson, you'll have to take a tour sometime. Petraglia leaving the 10-pin.
John can't do one thing here, and that's let up. He's got to trust the ball a little bit more, throw a little bit harder because his particular side seems to be drying out, and he's just got to make the move or else he's going to get in trouble because Jeff's not the guy to get in trouble with.
All right, Petraglia, one of the 2 left-handed bowlers that started in our field of 5. First one was Steve Westberg, whom Petraglia defeated 236 to 224. Then Petraglia 246 to Bo Burton's 169. Then Petraglia 298 to Mark Roth's 249.
You know, talking about Garden City, Chris, this is where Lindbergh took off from Roosevelt Field on his nonstop flight to Paris, correct?
Ah, what a historian. Dick Weber from St. Louis. A lot of spirit.
Right. Now he's letting up. He's slowing himself down at the foul line, slowing the speed of the ball down a little bit, and that's the reason he's going to high, and he's got to make a change here. So let's watch as we watch his delivery here. Ball over the foul line, but it's very much inside the target, going to the high on the nose.
Now here's a left-hander going for the 2-7. Nope. That's an open in the 6th frame. The lead now is down to 17 pins, and Mattingly has a strike-up shooting in the 6th frame. Here we go. Final game.
And with this particular strike in the 6th frame and coming up in the 7th frame, that would put Jeff Mattingly up approximately 3 pins. And he knows it, too.
Now accepting the challenge and the pressure. That big double cutting it to 7 pins.
Wouldn't you think, Chris, that never having won a match on the TV as we watch this ball hook out of the building and back into the pocket, carrying all 10 pins into the pit, wouldn't you think that you have to be thinking about that? So you really got to be a little bit more of a tiger out there against a fellow like John Petraglia, who shot 298?
Oh, yes. And now with the strike, we'll take a 3-pin lead. Here it is. No, coming up high, 3-6-10, left lane.
And remember, Bo Burton said that before the finals that left lane hooked a little bit more than the right lane. I'm sure that Jeff Mattingly knows this, and he's got to adjust to it because he's been high on that particular lane time and time again.
All right, Mattingly marking with a spare.
He gets the ball over the foul line, but he's outside so far that he has to put so much lift on the ball that it just automatically hooks to the nose.
After an open frame, Petraglia's 7th frame. All right, back on. 7 strikes in his first game, 7 in his second game, 11 strikes in his third game for a 298. And now this is his 4th strike in 7 frames. He has a 10-pin lead.
And they both know that they can't make any mistakes because it's late in frames. They have 3 frames left apiece. So a little more time, a little more concentration on the spot and the basics of their game.
Petraglia bowling in his 4th game, coming up with a double to put him out 20 pins on top with Mattingly up to shoot.
Look at the angle there, the ball going far, far down the lane and then breaking in the pocket because he's throwing the ball definitely harder, that's for sure. And a worried Debbie Mattingly looks on, giving her husband encouragement.
Oh, the big one.
That's a very costly error to Jeff Mattingly. He got the ball so far out that he lifted so hard the ball just had no chance of holding the pocket. And drove right through, leaving the big 4 split.
That is a tough break for Mattingly, the tournament leader.
Has to be disappointed, disgusted with himself because he let up on it a little bit, threw it out too far.
Finished second to Bo Burton in the U.S. Open in Greensboro. And now a 10 on the left lane.
That particular shot, he just sort of what we call killed the ball. He didn't go through with the ball good. He didn't lift with the ball good, and the ball was a little bit flat when it hit the pocket, leaving the weak 10.
So now Petraglia.
With any type of a mark, Chris, it's all over. Johnny Petraglia will be our winner.
Well, we have a 6-7-10 facing Petraglia, who finished second at the Showboat Invitational in Las Vegas.
All right, and with this particular shot, the 6-7-10, Chris, he will have to shoot for the 6-10 only. If he tries to go for it, he's going to lose count, and this will force a shot in the 10th frame, a good shot, and a mark. He can't afford another open.
All right, covering the 6-10, John Petraglia, giving him 179 through the 9th.
Right. Now the 10th frame, he needs 9 pins, and then he doesn't need the mark. This 9 pins will automatically give him the win.
Look at him check that overhead score sheet to make sure.
For $8,000, why not? All right, one out of these two, and he's an automatic winner, and he doesn't care which one, just so it's one. But knowing John, he'll throw hard at the pin and slide the ball into the spare, the 4-7 spare.
All right, we're in the final stages of the Long Island Open. To make sure, Petraglia. John Petraglia wins the $8,000 in the Long Island Open Trophy. Patty and Mr. Petraglia, congratulations to you two, sitting and watching this Tiger work. Goodbye, John.
Goodbye. Thanks, Nassau PBA.
All right.